Most of us podcasters release an episode, then promote it so listeners can find it. But Wes Towers hits publish before the recording even starts, so listeners show up in advance. But before getting to this part, he explained how being a guest on hundreds of episodes helped him launch his own, and you should understand why potential clients would listen to his podcast rather than any other podcast in the same niche. And since he runs an SEO agency, we talked about how every podcast episode can become an asset that shows up in search results and even in AI. Let's get into it.
It was just by accident, really. I had done a couple of guest podcasts a few years back, just people that I knew asked that I would be on their show. And it wasn't something that I really pursued, although I enjoyed those opportunities. It wasn't until I found another friend of mine who was doing a lot of podcasts, and she had mentioned the benefits of doing it for her business. So I thought, oh, that's something I might pursue. So probably 9 months ago now, it must be, that I started to look at doing more and more shows, and I did just over 100 since that 9 months ago. So I've done a lot of shows since then, and it's been a really great journey. Every host is different, every show is different. There's topics that people always want to discuss with me, but it always takes a different flavor, so to speak. So it's really a great opportunity to talk to a lot of people.
I'm curious, what kind of benefits you've seen from being a guest now in so many shows?
Yeah, there's all sorts of benefits. I mean, just the benefit of refining the way in which you communicate what you do and to bring it at a different way was really helpful, particularly in the first few shows I was on. I'm not a professional speaker, and you probably can gather that, but the first few shows were really a bit rough, and I was surprised they even published them. So you're perfecting your craft as you go. So the early days of learning how to speak and how to communicate something of value and hopefully something that people can take away, some ideas that they might apply to their own lives and businesses. But then also just the content that you produce, it's a collaboration. So you're leveraging your connections through another person. So all of a sudden it's you and I producing something of value and sharing that to both of our worlds, our social media platforms. So you just extend your reach so far. So it's been brilliant. The amount of connections, for me, it's mostly been through LinkedIn. So what will happen is people will find me on a show, they're listening to something, and then they'll reach out and connect on LinkedIn, and things can go from there. So it's been a pretty powerful experience.
Yeah, it's nice. Like 100 episodes is 9 months. It's quite a pace. It's quite a pace. So yeah, really impressed by that. But yeah, I'm curious because so earlier this year, so despite having this 100 episode as a guest, earlier this year you decided to launch your own podcast, built, trusted, chosen. So I'm curious to hear what was the reason behind launching your own podcast?
I just found I really enjoyed the guest experience, and the thing that always prevented me from starting my own show was the thought that it might be a lot of work. I'd heard that it's a lot of work to run a podcast, to do the editing, to do all these things. So, but I bumped into a few shows. I can't remember the first one that I bumped into, but they went live. They just went live. So what that meant was there's no editing. And so I thought, well, you can make a process that works for you and simplify the process. Now, probably editing is better. Of course it is. But I just don't know where I would stop and start with that kind of thing. And so I decided we record the shows, but we publish them as if live on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook. And the benefit of that is you get a different type of promotion. So you get to promote the event as if it's a live event, and people will register through LinkedIn, let's say, and they can share it. So the guest, I'm the host in my show, but the guests can also share it to their LinkedIn network. So because in terms of social media, the biggest platform that I use is LinkedIn. It's a really great way to get the best bang for your buck, I suppose you could say. So because you've got the pre-event, and so people are sharing it, I'm sharing it, the guest is sharing it, other people might bump into it along the way as well. But then, so then you've got the show itself, and then you've got after the show, you can re-share and say what a great show it was. So you get to leverage the one piece of content lots of different times, which works well for me. And then the no editing piece, because people realize it's a live show, so they're more forgiving with the ums and ahs. I suppose is a way of looking at it. So there's different ways of doing it. That's the way I've chosen to do it, because it works for the style in which I want the show to be.
Yeah, it's really. Do you take questions from the audience as well, or it's only you so far?
Just me so far. That's something that I've thought about, the option of doing that. So people can certainly comment. We don't get really many comments at all throughout the live publishing. So it would be interesting if I, as the host, prompted them mid-show for a comment. I just haven't probably perfected that into my craft yet, but it's something that's probably worth trying to see if I can get some level of engagement and using the live experience more to its benefits. I'm not sure. Yeah,
it's great. No, because it's something that I hear that I hear a lot, not a lot, but that I keep hearing every time I try to log in on YouTube or on LinkedIn or stuff like that, is that there's a lot of AI content, more and more AI content. And it feels like we are getting into this trend where human will try to connect more either in real life or virtually, but during lives. Because during live, it's not AI. Even if you can't, even if you struggle to see what's real or what's not, you know that if it's a live, it's real people that you're interacting with. And so I think you may be on something.
Yeah, I kind of had that view as well. That I prefer the imperfect human experience, and I think there'll be more of a desire. There's already a growing desire for that. I mean, all the time I see in my Facebook feed new ads promoting various, AI video production systems, and they're getting better and better. We all can see that. That's exciting for a lot of reasons, but what it's obviously going to mean is there's a flood of content and information, and how do we stand out in such a noisy crowd with these perfected videos? There was one that was promoting them as a podcasting video experience. So they had the sets and the multiple cameras, but it wasn't even the person. It was just a clone of themselves. So, and it looked really, really good. I could still tell it, because it didn't have that human kind of jovial nature where it could have been, a little bit lighter hearted. It was more cold. It felt a little cold, but I think they're going to perfect that down to, so it's indistinguishable between the real. So we need to find ways to stand out above that.
Yeah, definitely. I came across a YouTube channel that, it's all AI, and the guest is, I think what struck me is because I saw it was Mr. Beast, the guest, so a famous YouTuber, and it visually, there's something that was odd to me, and so I was curious and I went dive into the channel, and it was all AI. So an entire YouTube with not fake, but fake host, fake guests, and it seems like it's already happening.
Yeah.
So
it's frightening in a lot of ways. Beneficial for those that are able to leverage it, but I just don't know how. For a smaller business like mine, I'm not Joe Rogan. I'm nobody other than that I speak to a specific niche. So the benefit of being really specific in your target audience for your podcast, anything you produce, it's just like business. If you're really specific in who you want to communicate with, you've got a better chance of attracting them, because you can tailor everything around their precise needs and desires and what's going to be beneficial for them. It's really difficult to be generalist, because then all of a sudden you're competing against the really big players in the field, and that's really difficult. Some people will make it, but maybe not me. Maybe I'm better just serving the people that I serve really well.
Yeah. By the way, if you're listening to this and you don't see your podcast contribute enough to your business, I'm going to share at the end of this conversation how my podcast generates leads for my business. So stay until the end for that. Let's unpack that. How do you, for example, I think, how do you pick your guest to make sure that it fits what your audience needs to hear?
Yeah, so because I run a digital agency and so we do websites and SEO and all that kind of thing, but for the trades and construction niche, so anything to do with construction, building materials, all that kind of thing, we work with that type of client. So it made practical sense for me to host a show for that particular audience. I felt they were underserved, in particularly in our region. So it made good sense for me to speak to the people that we work with on a day-to-day basis, and it's been really beneficial. I mean, I've always felt that I've grown to know the clientele really well, but talking through different topics on a podcast platform with them, I'm learning a whole lot about them and there's similar aspects of a lot of the guests that I'm realizing, hey, these are things I didn't really understand or appreciate fully in their worlds, the different challenges. Because, talking to them as a client building their websites, we're talking at it from one perspective and angle, but we're not necessarily talking about some of the other issues that they face, like cash flow can be a massive problem in the trades and construction industry. So it's really helpful me to understand those types of things, other things going on in their businesses, and I've learnt so much. So first thing, I really enjoy it. I enjoy finding out a whole bunch of things about the people. I like talking to people, but then the benefits of understanding them at a higher level for my business has been really helpful as well.
Yeah. So let's talk about your business. What kind of so we talked you talked about the websites, and they're kind of, so they're not visible, they're kind of underrepresented. What kind of, so let's be specific on this, just to be sure that the audience and the listener gets this really well. Who's the ICP exactly? So you mentioned the trades and construction. You said the region. We didn't clarify. You are in the Melbourne area. So yeah, can you explain a little bit about the ICP, and yeah.
Yeah, so we do serve clients globally. However, the majority are in our geographic region, being in Melbourne, just outside of Melbourne. So we have clients all around Australia, but also a few overseas as well. So I think we're working right now in one in Canada and London. That's about it offshore at the moment. But yeah, so we serve trades, construction, so contractors, electricians, plumbers, building materials, so cladding companies, for example. And so they're really pragmatic, practical, down to earth, hands on people, and I really enjoy working with those. They're often founder led businesses as well, so you get the opportunity to work with a person who really cares about the business, which is a huge plus. Sometimes it's a bigger company and working with the marketing team as well, and that's a different experience, but also worthwhile. So yeah, so we help them to get visible online. So in this day and age, we've touched on it, AI is transforming the way in which people produce content, and content is the backbone for search engine optimization. So, and it's not just about showing up in Google anymore, it's about showing up in large language models themselves. So on ChatGPT, if someone's looking for a plumber, let's say they've got a burst pipe or something, and they've got some sort of need to a problem to solve, then sometimes if they feel as though it's something they might be able to solve themselves, they might jump on ChatGPT and have a discussion. I do it all the time. And they might start asking, hey, how do I fix this leak or whatever it is? Have a discussion. Eventually, they might say, who's a great provider in my town to solve this problem? And if you're the one who shows up right then and there in ChatGPT, that's a massive win. And the only way to do that is to have content published that solves that particular need. So you need quality content published frequently, so they know it's fresh and unique and up to date. But it needs to be the same things that Google look for. They're looking for the very best content that solves people's problems, so that can be served and highlighted to the appropriate people. So publishing that content that stands out because everyone else is trying to do the same thing But say similar to me niching and niching for the podcast, niching for your business. So that might be, I mean, niched to a location that you can serve, because, you know, an electrician can only travel so far to do his work, so, or her work. So, you know, so targeting the geographic region that they can serve, targeting the exact services that they can provide, and doing it through content that gets picked up by the search engines, and also large language models is what we're all about. And it's changing all the time. It's exciting and terrifying sometimes how much it's changing.
Yeah. And how much content do we say roughly? Like every week or something, I don't know.
The priority is the quality. So the and it's not a clear answer, but it's the only answer I can give is the more you can do, the better, as long as the quality doesn't fall behind. So it needs to read really well for a human user if it's written content. It can be video as well, but just to think about the content that you're sharing, it needs to be quality, simply because back in the day, you could cheat your way to the top. You could just use the right keywords, so the phrases people might be searching for, and put them in all the right places and rank really well and attract traffic. But all these large language models, they understand the context of the language. That's what they are. That's what they do really well. So, and they kind of know if it's not really giving much value. So the content piece needs to give value. And sometimes the topic might feel a bit boring. To get back to the burst pipe scenario, well, a blog about a burst pipe is really boring for most people, except for the person with a burst pipe right there and then. And if it's an emergency burst pipe scenario, that content is incredibly interesting because they need a problem solved right there and then. So sometimes people get scared about publishing a lot of content simply because they feel it's a bit bland and boring, but it's not for the right people. And the thing to think about is not everyone's reading all of the information. All the tools are getting better and better at surfacing the right information to the right people at the right time. So you just write the content that's valuable for somebody, have someone in mind when you're writing it, publish it, and don't worry that it's not useful for everybody else. It's just right for that person that needs it right there and then.
Yeah. Yeah. I have the feeling that what you say can be applied to any niche. So obviously, when you talk about burst pipes, it's very specific to your niche. But I feel like the listener could understand that this can be applied to any niche. So I'm curious to know, how do you decide the first content that will write on your niche for SEO?
Yeah, so from our perspective, because we don't know what's happening on a day-to-day basis within the business, but we'll look at their service, the keywords that we once used to target, so the service and the location. So plumber Melbourne as a really basic one. Typically, it would be the services that we would look to write content about. That's what we can do. And so we take a keyword and use it as a topic idea. So it's a pillar of content ideas around that topic. So we're not thinking about keywords anymore like something that we're trying to jam in to all the right places. We're using it as a pillar of content. So there's one keyword might have a range of a dozen topic ideas that we could write about. So that's the way we can look at it. But as a business within the business, it becomes even actually easier than that, because they can start to talk about case studies, stories, and examples of what they're working on there and then. Now, the difficulty on their side is they're just busy doing the work. So sometimes what happens is we will get the client, our client, to just send the job sheet to us, what they've been working on, and that's enough for us to create something meaningful. It might be a case study or a story or something around that service offering that they've just provided, and then we can give some actual details about the particular project they were working on. So that just streamlines it a little bit from their end. So it's not a lot of additional work. It's just a matter of sending us the job details that they were working on anyway. So it's just creating a habit and a cadence that they can stick to. So we're all actually sitting on a bunch of content within our businesses. It's just that we're not necessarily building systems that leverage those thoughts and ideas. into something that might be useful for the online experience.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Very nice. It's something that just came to my mind. Would you say that your knowledge in SEO is useful to you for the podcast as well?
Yeah, it's exactly the same running a podcast as it is a business. And as you said, so we target a particular type of business, but the principles are the same no matter what industry you serve, and whether it be a business or a podcast. You need to be really clear about who it is you serve, and to speak to that individual, to think in your mind. Sometimes it's ideal, and I've certainly had times where I would think of a particular client when I'm writing the content. I wouldn't use their name, of course, but I'm writing it as if I'm writing to them. So everything that's in this piece is addressing their needs. And actually, sometimes it's after a client meeting. So, it's about, we've just had a meeting. They've touched on a few different issues in their business that they're not getting the most value out of their marketing or whatever it is. And that's a great thought process. I talk to my phone, so it might be if I'm driving around, and I'm just brainstorming ideas into my ChatGPT. By the time I get to wherever I'm going to, I've got something collated into some meaningful thoughts. You could do that in any business, but you could also do it as a podcast if you're running a podcast, to really think about the exact person that you want to speak to. And the thing we always fear is, if we go niched, is there's not going to be enough. We have that fear of a lack. If we go broader, there's a bigger audience pool. But the reality is, you're just diluting your message. The wider you go, the more diluted your message is. But the narrower you go, the more specific and valuable. And so for me, the podcast doesn't need to be as polished and as perfect. I'm not the greatest of hosts. There's always going to be someone better than me at hosting. I'll get better and better as I go, and as I get more experience and so on. But there's always going to be someone better. So if I'm competing with everybody and just such a small fish in a large pond, but if I'm specialized in the type of people I'm serving, then I'm getting regular listeners. They'll come back for the next episode, and they certainly do. I got an email, might have been late last week, to say he'd listened to all the shows. I don't have visibility of that kind of thing, but it was wonderful to see. And some of the things that had been touched on by our guests, he had mentioned that how it applied to his business, and how he wanted us as a business to start to leverage some of these ideas into his marketing material. So it was wonderful to see a real case study of someone who's actually listened to probably all the shows, and the benefits, see the fruit of it. You don't always hear how people come to you, and you don't know precisely why they've come and how they've come. But this person was really open about their whole journey, which is wonderful to see.
I mean, you might need to invite him on the podcast, I think.
Yeah, actually, I did. I invited a lot of people if they're in our niche. Part of the challenge I'm experiencing with it is, because my audience is oftentimes they're practical, hands-on. They're on the tools type people. Oftentimes, they don't necessarily do a lot of talking. They're uncomfortable. I think that's true for a lot of people, that just to be behind a camera and record something is a little bit scary and overwhelming. I'm certainly finding that is the bigger challenge. There's some wonderful people I come across, but they're just too scared to get on a podcast. So, there's plenty of others out there that I can have on the show, but it's a shame sometimes that some of the really great thought leaders in their fields are just a bit scared to come on the show.
Yeah, it's really, it feels like we can all have a normal conversation. We are able to do that, but once there is a camera, it shifts a little bit, and once someone press record, like, it changed completely. So, and you do lives, so yeah, I can understand that they're not too sure about doing it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's just about getting the right people on, and hopefully having a bit of a discussion before the show. Like this is probably an important tip for anyone going live, or any podcast probably for that matter, is sometimes when you can see someone's a little uneasy, to spend a little bit more time before you start, just having a chat, having a joke, trying to get them to lighten up a fraction. And if you can get them smiling and laughing a little bit, they're probably going to have a better episode.
I'm curious to hear a bit about this because I always find that the first seconds, when I pressed record, I try to, to ease the mood, but I'm curious to know how, like, how do you find, for example, the joke, or how do you find something to make them, feel at ease at the moment when you press record?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's yeah, it can just be just a natural conversation of me being a bit of a goose, I suppose. Uh, I think I think we're fortunate in Australia. People seem to like us. We haven't offended too many people in the world just yet. So for whatever reason, people seem to like our accent. So they like. I might have a joke about, because we're in terms of the time and the date, we're ahead of most nations. New Zealand is ahead of us, but so I'll make jokes about being in the future and telling you some stock tips or some sports bins. You can pretend those sorts of things. They're easy little jokes to have that I might say something along those lines. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's I don't know, maybe you've found it too, but people seem to like Australians, so that's a big plus for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I see, definitely, yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I'm curious about to dive into a bit about the podcast, because so you mentioned so obviously you have the positioning for the podcast. You really worked on your positioning. You make sure to invite the right people as well, and to dive into the right topics that your audience wants to hear. Once the live ends, how do you distribute your podcasts, on social media? What do you do? Do you post on LinkedIn? Do you do
Yeah.
videos? Do you do carousels? How
Yeah.
do you do it?
Yeah, so it gets repurposed on all the social platforms through Opus, the video, Opus Clips. That's probably one of the most popular. There's others out there. It's just the one I started with, so we keep using it. And so that goes out every weekday, so Monday to Friday. And we publish, twice a day. So in the morning and in fairly late. No, I don't do the publishing myself, actually. So it goes out in the morning and then in the evening. So then it's probably different people seeing them. So not everyone's going to see all the
Yeah.
content. I think that's another thing people fear, is publishing too frequently. But the reality is, very few people are going to see all your content, because they're not online all the time, or hopefully they're not. if they've got a social media addiction, they might do, but for the most part, they're only going to see some of what you publish. So I don't think publishing twice a day is too much, but other people might. So we do that. Obviously, the audio goes out as podcasts as well. BuzzStream is the one we're using for that. Seems to be nice and easy. There's others as well, but just choosing what's popular. Some of the popular software seems to be it's popular for a reason, because it's easy to use. So that's good too. And yeah, it's good to see different people are consuming it in different ways. That's one of the other things too. So sometimes guests will want to show something on screen, or describe something, but I try to avoid that, simply because I've found there's more people listening than watching. I don't know if that's true for every other podcast, but it seems to me that Spotify, yeah, and they're listening. And so maybe, I don't know why that is, but yeah, we've just got to keep the content suitable for audio or the video experience.
Yes. I would always prioritize the audio, because even if not everyone watch the video, everyone hears what the podcast is about. Everyone listens to the podcast, even if it's video. So to me, it's absolutely crucial to never try to talk about something that in on screen, because the person that just listening to it will be left out for sure.
Yeah, I agree. So I wonder if, I don't know, it'd be really interesting to see if most people are listening in their cars or how they listen as well. I'd be really curious to see that information, or whether they're listening at their office or um, it'd be because it'd be a slightly different experience, and how focused they are on their content might also play into how we produce as well. Yeah. I don't know. You've had a few different podcasters on. Have they had experience with that sort of thing?
No, they haven't. They haven't mentioned this, but I came across a LinkedIn post last week that just mentioned that the fact that you can't on the podcast say or talk about something that is on screen because people are listening. Myself, I listen to podcasts when I do the dishes or when I walk. So usually I'm not
Mm.
focused on what I'm doing. I'm mostly focused on the podcast. And so, yeah, I don't know. How do you consume your podcast?
Yeah, I'm sort of the same. So I will usually have it on the television, in the evening, but I'll be doing other things. I might be doing the dishes or just, doing, getting some ironing done or something, something that doesn't take my brain power. But it's still the video, but I'm just not watching it. I might glance at it, but I'm not really sitting in front of it.
Yeah. And talking to video, because YouTube is quite a big search engine, I can say, if I can put it this way. Do you do something specific for YouTube to appear in results or something like that?
I haven't done, but I've been starting to consider that a little more. And certainly, I think the titles are probably the most important thing. Obviously, the graphic as well. I've got a bit of a template for that, and it feels as though it's working pretty well. But I see the titles that promise something of perceived value seem to be doing better. So an outcome focused title. So one of the shows was about going from 6 figures to 7 figures, and that show title seemed to do really well. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are in the 6 figure mark and looking to grow to that 7 figures. So, the outcome focused, benefits focused titles seem to do pretty well. So yeah, it's been interesting. Some titles I've come up with and I thought this is going to be a winner, and they're not, and then others seem to do better. So yeah, it's still a bit of a hit and miss, but you try these things and you get better at picking what might work.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You use I mean, you use the shorts video as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so through Opus, so that's really a curious platform as well, because I mean, we use Opus and publish the same video on multiple platforms, and sometimes it'll take off on YouTube and not on TikTok, and vice versa. So it's a little bit hit and miss for various reasons, but you just keep publishing, and eventually something will take off in every platform. So it's been really bizarre, the differences from platform to platform. What might happen? I think sometimes you just get lucky, and if you get a few engagements early on, as soon as it's published, then it'll go to a broader audience. But if you get unlucky and no one sort of engages early on, then you haven't got much chance with that one. So, but yeah, if you stick to a regular frequency of publishing, eventually something will stick.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And also the hooks, the way the video starts, because it kind of dictates if someone will stay or not. And so the hooks are absolutely crucial. And try to not have the video that is very too long. Try to give enough value, then stop the video. All this kind of stuff to keep in mind. So yeah, it's kind of a lot of work to make the shorts work. But I agree with you that at some point you just need to distribute, keep distributing, and at some point you will pick up what works, what doesn't, and you try
Yeah.
to iterate from there for sure.
Yeah. So with Opus clips, you can choose what lengths you're happy to publish. And so I've initially I just let it choose whatever length. So you will get some long ones and some short ones. But I ended up changing it, or I don't do it myself, but the team, my son actually does it for me. So Yeah, I shortened it down so it's anything under 30 seconds now, when previously it sometimes made really long ones, but under 30 seconds. It sounds really short, but in a video context, it's actually pretty long.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And so yes, it's nice because usually when I talk to host, they distribute on YouTube. I mean, I do it myself. I distribute on YouTube and LinkedIn, because that's where my listeners, my ICP, that's where they hang out. So I try to avoid the other platforms. But very curious because, as you said, there are some platforms that would work well. There are others, for example, LinkedIn, I guess, that will bring you more. LinkedIn and X, that will bring you more downloads because there is a direct link under the post where people can click on.
Yeah.
It's not something that they can do, for example, on TikTok and Instagram. There is this link. There is this link on YouTube, though. On YouTube, there is the direct link to the episode. So yeah, it's kind of, as you said, you have to test. That's how you figure it out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It is interesting. So because we're doing it as like I run a business, and so the upside is to grow the business as well. But it is interesting. A lot of people are engaging with the content that's produced through the podcast, but they don't necessarily listen to the full episodes, but they know it's out there and they've seen lots of shorts. Different people consume content in different ways. So it's a matter of just repurposing it into ways that suit a broad range of people in your niche.
yeah, yeah. And there's some people that will discover the podcast through the short video, go to listen an episode, maybe two, maybe three, and at some point they reach out. There are others that are just gonna see some clips and someday decide to reach out. So you just never know. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're testing all this kind of stuff. And for the episode itself, do you drop any call to action or something like that for the listener that could be ready to take action, or is not something that you explored yet?
Yeah, so for the guests, they always have the opportunity toward the end of the show to explain how people should connect next, and so that can be some sort of lead magnet sometimes. Although for most guests I've had, they haven't really been prepared with a lead magnet. A couple have. So mostly they're driving people to their website or to their LinkedIn as well. So yeah, so it's pretty a soft kind of lead for them, I suppose. They're building their audiences as well. So yeah, it's always good. So they'll speak out exactly what they want people to do, and then you put it in the show notes, and then there's all the links in the show notes. So they're getting value out of that. And so for being an SEO guy, it's just to understand the value of one podcast as if you're a guest. I mean, it gets published in so many places, all the audio based podcasting platforms, all the video, all the reels. Your name and brand could be mentioned in so many places, and search engines and also large language models love it because they're getting all this information from far and wide about who you are and what you do. So it's just a powerful way to amplify your message really fast at low cost. And also for us, we'll take the podcast and make a blog post out of it. So all the key thoughts and ideas are recollated into a blog post, which some people would prefer to read information. So but that's really helpful for SEO as well. So their call to action will be in that podcast as well. So they're getting a link back to their website. So there's so many ways that one piece of conversation gets repurposed to benefit from an SEO perspective as well.
Yeah. And do you say as well during the episode, or you drop any links to your agency?
Yeah. For me, so yeah, that's right. So I've got a video intro and outro, and the outro has a more of an ad, I suppose, just a short thing about Uplift 360 and to connect. But also I have my own bio in the show notes and links to the website and so on. So people can follow me up as well that way.
Awesome. Well, I've learned a ton from our conversation, Wes. Definitely, I would re-listen to this and try to compare where my SEO is at. To be fair, I only dropped one article that I've written last week, so I've only one. So I think I'll keep. I'm very at the beginning of SEO, but for sure, yeah.
Yeah, the beauty of what you're doing, you can just take the transcript of, what we're recording right now and for other shows, and AI can do a really great job of collating it into a meaningful blog post. And then you would need to work over it to make sure it's what you want to say. But AI is pretty powerful at doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'll do that because I think it's not. I mean, I think the biggest issue that I see right now is not really the writing, but it's coming up with the right topics, as you said. And definitely, you said that it's during the conversations that we find the right topics. So I'm curious to drop this to Claude to see what Claude what say about the topics I should explore for my SEO for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds good.
Yeah. So, Wes, thank you for your time. That has been great. It's great talking with you. For anyone who wants you to reach out for your agency, or even to talk about you to talk with you about SEO stuff like that, what would be the best place to find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Uplift360.com.au. And on the homepage, you'll see a big button to book a strategy call. That's with me personally. So we can talk through some of the strategies that are for them.
Awesome. And I will put the links to the website and the link to the podcast as well. And if there is someone that is perfect for your podcast and I want to reach out, what the perfect to get on your podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So from the same website, there's a podcast tab where you can book a pre-call, 15-minute call. And that'd be great if there's anyone who's curious to be on the show.
Awesome. Well, Wes, thank you for your time. It's been great. I really appreciate you for coming on the show. And yeah, it was great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
And as I mentioned earlier, if you don't see your podcast contribute enough to your business, the way I do it is that I introduce a lead magnet twice throughout every single episode. So my system has 4 steps: a call to action mid-episode, another call to action at the end of the episode, an element in the show notes, and a landing page slightly different from the classic landing page format. So obviously it's a bit difficult to make it useful to you in just a few words. So I broke down my entire system in an article, script included. The link is at the top of the show notes of this episode. Have a look because I think it will give you the foundations that you need to start seeing leads coming from your podcast.